I always feel my leaders have got information how, for an example, elections came about and what were the decisions taken by the Western countries, by the way, who then pushed the government that we should negotiate. And negotiations took place. And there are many issues, again, we have not talked about, because at times people take it easy. Some even criticize elections. I mean, why do I say elections? Criticize the negotiations, but not realizing that it was the struggle that led to that, particularly when the Western countries realized that it was a matter of years, the enemy will be defeated. And once that happened, there will be no longer any way of preventing us liberating ourselves. The argument they put to the government was, you have to negotiate. Because if you don't negotiate, probably in a decade, you will be defeated. And there will be no more any white person in South Africa who would be in charge. And you will have no say once you are defeated. And therefore, the Western countries said, we are instructing you to negotiate because you have no alternative. If you compare two things, fighting and you are defeated and you have got no role in this country, than negotiating for your future so that you can have at least some role to play, you have to agree that you must negotiate. We as the Western countries will not support you if you continue fighting. Because if you did so, then South Africa was free, you will have no right of anything. And therefore, we as the Western countries were not going to allow this. These were secret discussions. Because if you did that and you were defeated, the communists will come in, take over this country. And our strategic point in the world would have been gone. And therefore negotiate. It was very difficult for them to agree, but they said, we're not going to nest you. You cannot make the Western world lose a strategic, a number, almost 2 strategic points in the world. And then they had no alternative there to say, okay, let us agree. They allowed P.W. de Klerk, those who were still alive will remember, when he made a statement addressing the white population in South Africa. He said, the world is changing. We also must change. We cannot fail to change. Because if we don't change, we are faced with 2 choices: to adapt or die. We need to choose between these 2. He was now telling the whites the time for negotiations has come. And indeed, thereafter, there are many things the Western countries did to help, because they promised South Africa that we will do everything to ensure that you succeed. They said, the Western countries, we will make it a point that as you negotiate, we, as Western countries, put together. When I'm very old, I'll write which countries were talking among themselves, not now. That our job will be to weaken the ANC because it is too strong, too big. We want to weaken it so that it becomes smaller, so that it does not run the country on its own. It must be forced to have parties that will work with. They also did a number of things. Many lives left or were taken away because they wanted, in order to reduce the strength of the African National Congress, it was also to reduce the leadership of the ANC that they thought were a threat, or they would not allow the ANC to be weakened. Hence, quite a number of assassinations, as well as quite a number of, what is this thing? Where people just feel, huh? What? Huh? It's called stroke. Oh, you said it at the same time. That's why people like our president, Oliver Tambo, became a victim. Not him alone, but some also among what we were referred to as our enemy, who were too radical for their thing. They also received the same from their brothers because they thought they were, in another way, they will also delay the negotiations. Others were killed, like Christian, etc. That was a part of weakening South Africa so that the objectives that were enshrined in our document, the Freedom Charter, should not be implemented. So they planned and did every other thing. And the issue, therefore, of the comrades who are here, who have stayed forever, who could have died, it was obvious that we were supposed not to say we cannot negotiate, but to know in negotiations what we wanted to achieve, where will it end? And indeed, the leaders or the Western world in this country planned a long process which involved, among others, to separate the comrades, put Mandela alone, put others in their place. It was also discussed with them, because they did not know that if these giants were released, what would be the situation from Robben Island. And it was also important that they wanted to shake the mood of the population if these old people were released. And they decided to release the oldest of them all. That was done. Why was released alone? Was to check the mood. And indeed, Mbeki was released for that reason. And of course, thereafter, the rest were released. But if you notice, around the same time as Madiba was coming out, Tambo was dying. And I'm saying this because it is absolutely important to understand and appreciate the struggle and how difficult it was and why it was so difficult, which at the right time will tell our side of the story. Indeed, today, that organization, which they wanted to be weak, in 30 years, they weakened it. It is weak now. Not just weak, almost moved off the route that it was given.